Hello, welcome to another one of Pat's Chats. I'm, of course, your host, Patrick Leeson, and that was the tale of my cat that just went by. I'm joined by Andrew Komer.
Hello.
So,
Great to
how,
be
Andrew,
here.
how you doing, Andrew? Welcome here. Thank you very much for doing this. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I'm a independent graphic novel author. So recently I published my first graphic novel, Chicken Man. So I
All
released
right.
this last year in
Mm-hmm.
2023.
Yeah.
So it's a superhero action comedy series about this guy who's a chicken delivery boy, and after a freak chicken delivery accident goes wrong, he suddenly thinks he has superpowers and decides to become the crime fighter Chicken Man.
All
But
right.
unfortunately for him, there was a group of vegetable rights activists there that got transformed into these evil vegetable people, and they want to go get their revenge on the vegetarians.
Okay. Now they actually got turned into something, but he stayed normal.
Yeah,
Okay. What?
yeah.
Where did you come up with the idea for Chicken Man?
So Chicken Man, I originally came up with the idea when I was 9 years old. It was different in the original.
Mhm.
Like Captain Underpants had like just come out, so me and my
Yes. Yep.
friends we'd like read a lot of those, and we got really inspired by all like the comics that you would see like inside the story. So we do
Hmm.
our own little like crude staple fold comics over recess. So the character I came up with was Chicken Man, and in that version, he was a superpowered drumstick. Here's actually the
Oh my
original
God.
Chicken Man book.
Oh my goodness.
Still kept it. Yeah.
Now,
And
did
have
he
a
fly and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, so the original one here, like he's a superpowered drumstick and he would
Mhm.
fly around and he shoots microwaves out of his eyes. Yeah. So he's like in a way like polar opposite to the new version of Chicken Man. So
Mhm.
the new Chicken Man, he's just I'll flip this around here so you
Yep.
can see him
There we go.
right side up.
Yeah.
Uh he's a more of a pathetic kind of hero where he wants to do good, but he's like not quite there
Mhm.
yet. So the thing with him is like he just believes he has superpowers. He doesn't know what they are yet. He thinks they'll just appear. So he
Okay.
decides to just go ahead, do the crime fighting thing, just thinking, they'll appear at some point because, if he's been exposed to radiation, therefore he must have superpowers.
Exactly.
Of course!
And especially if there's broccoli people out there, he's got to
Yeah.
have some sort of powers, right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, there is one chapter where I have a scene where he gets knocked out and he has a dream where he has the superpowers the original Chicken Man had.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So how did you get the Chicken Man developed and brought into graphic form? Did you self-develop, like self-publish it yourself, or?
Yeah, so I've self-published Chicken Man through my company Funpix. So Funpix was also, funnily enough, the name, I don't know if this will show up, of
Oh, yeah, there. Yep.
it's like an
Yep.
autofocus. I guess
Yep.
that's the best it's gonna be. So
That's
that's
really
the
answer.
name I had back then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I just kept that name. But yeah, so I had the idea floating around in my head for a while. I
Hmm.
wrote the original outline when I was in high school. Since the first book, it's very high school centric in terms of the story. So it's about a guy who's like just turned 18. He's on his last year of high school, so he's officially a man.
Man, yeah, exactly. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So hence the
Yeah.
Chicken Man. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Now,
So,
do you do everything yourself, like the writing, the drawing, the
yes.
editing, and all
Yeah.
that? Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
so
lot of work.
I wrote, drew, and illustrated Chicken Man. So I lost my train of thought there. Right, yeah. So I
Yeah.
wrote the original outline in high school,
Sorry.
and then when I was in college, I started illustrating the book, and
Hmm.
then I took a bit of a hiatus to work off my thesis film, Cyberspace Pirates, and then after
Oh,
that,
cool.
I got to working. So for the next 2 years, I was like, just getting
Hmm.
down, getting into storyboarding, and then finally I had some time, like, you know what, I'm gonna finish volume one and keep going with Chicken Man. So
Hmm.
then around the end of 2022, I finished the book and got it sent
Nice.
off to the printers.
Oh, cool. And you've been doing a few of the comic book conventions, I understand, right?
Yeah. So last year I did a convention run. I went to quite a few, especially around the GTA.
Hmm.
So I went to Toronto Comic Con, Fan Expo, Niagara Comic Con, London Comic Con, Ottawa Comic Con as well. A
Hmm.
lot of Ontario places. Yeah.
A lot of traveling. That must be hard.
Oh yeah, it was a lot. I also did a few like local comic book signings, like comic shop signings as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Those are always a lot of fun.
Yeah. You will get to meet fans and all that sort of
Hmm.
stuff and tell stories.
Hmm.
Now, you were saying something about Cyberspace Pirates?
Yeah, so there's another series I'm working on. So I have
One's
two
not
that kind of
enough.
ping pong between. So Chicken Man, it's like black and white superhero action comedy series, and Cyberspace Pirates. I originally developed it for television.
Hmm.
So a while back, I did a Kickstarter to raise funding for a pilot. Unfortunately, at the time I did it, I only had like 200 followers on Instagram, so that was pretty much like, yeah, that's not going to pan out. But it was a
Yeah.
situation where I had a bunch of talent who wanted to work on it, but
Oh,
I
good.
felt it would be immoral to have them just work on it without pay.
Could you pay me in advance?
So
Yes.
it's like if I can find an avenue to get funding, I would. So I went for a Kickstarter. Didn't work out that time. But I kept the idea and started
Mhm.
developing it more. And I've already finished scripts for 3 volumes worth of it.
Oh,
So
good.
I've
Nice.
begun the process of illustrating that one. And Cyberspace Pirates, it's a kind of like a cyberpunk cassette futuristic adventure comedy series.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, are you planning to go to any more shows and bring some of both works to show people, like both
Uh,
Cyberspace Pirates and Chicken Man, when you go to shows this year? Or...
well, Cyberspace Pirates won't be out till next year,
Yeah.
but the idea is once they're ready, I will. So Cyberspace Pirates have just begun illustrating it, so should be done by the end of this year,
And
at
so
least
then
volume
in
one.
2025, then are you planning
Yeah.
to like try and drum up more interest in the movie then at the same time?
That wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah. Well, I figure if you're out there before you the book, it's like, hey, by the way, I'd like
hmm
to turn this into a little movie in that.
hmm Yeah, I
Now,
always like I think I mentioned before, like I do storyboards and
yes.
animation, so I have a lot of experience in the animation industry. So this is something I would like to turn into an animated series at some point. Same with Chicken Man as well.
Mhm. So you already have like the have you already worked out the storyboards for Chicken Man animation then?
I actually did a test animatic for Chicken Man. It was from a section of the script from Chicken Man Volume 2.
Okay.
So if you don't mind minor spoilers, there's actually
No, that's fine.
section of it on my portfolio website.
Oh, nice. Well,
But
I'll
yeah.
put a link to it then in the description then, so
Mhm.
people can go check it out. So is that what you really enjoy, like storyboarding, or like,
I love storytelling,
yeah?
especially in like visual medium. It's a lot of fun.
Do you do any role playing games as well for this? Because you mean like creative people tend to like role playing games,
Oh, like the D&D and
D&D and
that.
stuff like that,
Um,
or you just don't have time,
I've
basically.
never really had the time to dedicate to like a D&D campaign. When I was in college, there was a group of friends that wanted to start one up. I believe I only ended up going to 2 of the games before I got too busy. So, yeah, it seems like a thing that would naturally fit for me, but it hasn't really worked out.
Well, yeah,
I
you're
find
pretty.
I spend a lot more time just, creating stuff.
Mhm.
Um,
Who are some of
yeah.
your influences for like your drawings and your style, if you have one?
Um, yeah, it's varied. So a big influence on me was like I grew up in like the early 2000s. So a lot of like early 2000s cartoons were a big influence on me. So stuff like
Mhm.
SpongeBob, Captain Underpants, The Tick,
Yes.
um, yeah, those kind of things. As far as comic book influences, I was really big into the independent scene from the 90s. So Jeff Smith is a
Mm,
gigantic influence on me as far
mm.
as comics go, probably the most influential. I like really loved how we would do like brush inking. I would even watch like his videos on YouTube.
Okay.
So when I was looking for materials to do my comic, I was like, okay, what does he use? He's like Winsor Newton size 2. It's like I'm buying that. And it is a very good brush. Takes
Yeah.
a bit of
You said
getting
yeah.
used to, but once you get a handle of it, you got way more control than a pen.
Did you get a chance to meet him?
I have not. I've had some friends who have met him at conventions, and apparently he's just like a really amazing, fun guy to talk to.
You should try. Like, I'm not stalking you, Jeff. But where are you going to be?
Yeah, I don't think he's done any Canadian shows in a while, so I
Yeah.
just haven't had the opportunity.
Now I know it takes a lot of work to do all the different shows and that. So are you planning to do as many this year, or are you going to try and cut back a little bit? Because there is an expense as well, too.
Yeah, so this year I've cut back a bit because like I need to focus on creating the content for next year.
Hmm.
So one thing I found last year is it was great going out to shows, but I'd be so exhausted afterwards and be like, okay, I guess I'll work on the scripts because I'm too tired to draw. So I got ahead on all the scripts for the series.
Hmm.
Like for Chicken Man, I actually have the next 2 books written out in script format already.
Nice. Yes.
Yeah.
But I guess it is hard because it's one of those ones like you got to get out there for people to see you. But if you're
hmm
doing that, you're not working on the story.
Yeah.
And,
So I figured I should focus a bit more on the story this year. So next year I can have a new book ready.
mhm.
So then when I get back into the scene, I'll have, more books for people to read.
Now, does Chicken Man have his own Instagram account?
I have everything under the Fun Picks Comics handle.
Okay.
So reason for that is it's so annoying as an individual to manage multiple
Yes.
accounts. So
Yes.
Back in the days when people used Facebook, there was a separate Facebook page for Chicken Man and Cyberspace Pirates.
Okay.
And then after I made the FunPix page,
You just put it all together.
they're still up, but they'll link you to the FunPix one. So I just all of my content is under that umbrella.
Yeah, like you said, probably easier than trying to have separate ones for each one.
Yeah.
And plus, they can go see if there's any stuff coming up or whatever. Do you
Mhm.
put announcements and that on there where you're going to be on your site?
On my Instagram, the site's more of like a portfolio overview of my different series.
Or Facebook maybe, or
Yeah, Instagram would be the place I make most of my announcements. Sometimes I'll post to Twitter as well.
do you pass your ideas through your friends first before you finalize it, or do you just like, okay, I know what I'm doing?
I always have a general idea of what I want to do in the beginning. I find it's best at the beginning to write more to yourself, like where you're finding things out, because if you get too much outside voices earlier on, it can be distracting from your focus. But I do always make sure to show my work to friends and peers to get feedback before I do the finals, just because like, there could be something maybe I don't understand, but from someone else's perspective may have not occurred to me. So it'd be good to implement that sort of thing. So I always like to get feedback before the finals, but yeah.
Are any of your friends in the comics per se, like, sort of as a character or, generalized?
Yeah, so I do a thing with my characters where I take a lot of inspiration from my friends, but I never make any characters outright based off a single person.
Okay.
So Chicken Man in particular has a lot of influence from my childhood growing up. So there's a lot of characters in there influenced by friends I had during like high school and elementary school.
But no one can actually say, hey, that's me.
Yeah, not exactly. So there'd be like things where it's like when you're hanging out with friends, you might find like commonality traits between them, or as you're writing the characters, the character will become its own character and start speaking to you more of how they want to do. So they would branch off being more different than the person that maybe inspired that character in the beginning. So although they are inspired by people, they are very much their own characters.
Their own character, yeah. I was going to say, because you mentioned Kickstarter, I know I've backed a few where for graphic novels and stuff like that, they'll say, hey, if you back at this level, we'll put you in the story, or we'll, have you as a character to be used for other people. Have you thought of that yourself for when you're doing your Kickstarter? Like,
that'd be an idea for volume 2. Yeah.
It's basically, it's like sort of the idea, like you put a certain amount, like they'll design a character with you to be in the story.
Yeah, I get a little cameo. It's something I definitely considered. When I did Cyberspace Pirates, that was actually one of the perks. I did a Kickstarter last year for Chicken Man. That one, the book was already finished, so I couldn't really offer something like that, and it was more so to help raise funds to produce the merch. So I actually had the book already printed prior to the Kickstarter, and then all the funds from the Kickstarter went to producing the merch. So actually,
speaking of merch,
mugs made.
That's really awesome. That's a really good mug.
Yeah, I had a few different designs as well. So this is another one. So they're coffee mugs. So this is like the Monday morning edition.
Monday one, yes. and like you're right, it's good enough that anyone who's not even a fan of the Chicken Man might still pick it up because it's an interesting design.
Yeah, it's kind of my philosophy when it comes to merch, especially since I'm new. This is my first book. Not a lot of people are familiar with it. So when I'm doing merch, I think like, okay, what's something that could A, be practical to someone, but 2, just be a nice, appealing design without any prior knowledge of the series. So also like the title of the book is Attack of the Vegetable People, which a lot of people reminds them of Attack of the Killer Tomatoes and a lot of like B horror. So one thing I knew I had to do was do a shirt with kind of that graphic B horror poster design. That's a great one.
That's a great art. You should use that as a cover for one of your books.
Yeah, it would be a good variant cover, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You did that yourself?
Yeah, I like to vary my style up every so often.
I'll definitely have to put a link for that and on the details as well.
Yeah, like I'm selling the book and the merch all on my Gumroad, and I also have a digital edition of the book as well on there.
Okay, that's going to ask because some people, like the PDF, some people like the hardcover. It all depends on that.
Yeah, there is one key difference between the PDF and the hardcover. So the hardcover version actually comes with some scans of the original Chicken Man comics.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So it's got the 2 Chicken Man books that inspired this volume the most inside of it, but that's exclusive to the physical edition.
Oh, so another reason to get the actual physical one then. And plus then you'd be able to autograph it when they see you at a convention.
Yeah.
Now, are you working full time now as well? Like an
Right
art.
now I've just been doing freelance.
Mhm.
It's been a little rocky with animation, so I've just been kind of doing like freelance gigs every now and then. I've been doing a bit of teaching over at a school in Toronto, so that's been fun, new for me,
Oh,
but
good, good.
it's fun. I
Congratulations.
enjoy the
Yeah. Have
enjoy
you
the
thought about?
team.
I haven't. Like there used to be the dailies on in the newspapers and stuff like that. I guess they've sort of gone the wayside though
Yeah.
with the new
Well,
technology.
I'm a lot younger than you, so I'm just gonna go newspaper?
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
What?
That was the thing my dad used to read.
Yeah, exactly. Well, then they
What's
switched to like Dilbert switched to online as well
yeah.
for doing a daily. Have you or not even a weekly? Have you thought of that for Chicken Man? Sort of. I know it's a
Doing
be a lot of
weeklies? I
work then.
don't know if it would work for Chicken Man
Yeah.
per se, because like the story, like if it's a weekly thing, I think I want to do maybe like a 4 panel comic. I'd probably just do a whole new idea for that. There's a
Okay.
couple ideas I have floating around in my head for a
Hmm.
4 panel, but um too soon to speak about it right now.
Well, I mean, you've already got the sort of the semi superhero one. Sort of reminds me a little bit of Kick-Ass, or just because there's no
hmm
powers involved. It's
hmm
just a guy, and then you're now cyberspace pirates. Is that a
Yeah.
fantasy or science fiction, or is it cyberpunkish, or
I would say it's more cyberpunk than science fiction. Like it's definitely sci-fi inspired, but it's a comedy, so
okay?
I like to have a lot of fun with it, so there's no like real hard science behind what's going on. Like in that series, the general premise is there's these pirates that travel through cyberspace, so they go in and out of cyberspace to steal these ancient artifacts.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like yeah, but the premise, I guess, with the world in cyberspace pirates is everything is stuck to like early 90s, 80s technology, but it has the same processing power as today.
Oh,
So
okay. Right.
so
Yeah.
basically computers have to be the size of buildings. So everybody lives inside these giant computer structures. And the internet doesn't exist. So instead there's a worldwide LAN connection and there's these giant
Oh,
network cables that connect everything together.
my goodness. Okay.
So what happens is like sometimes they'll find these broken cables, and when they wander down the cables far enough, they enter into the data stream and go into cyberspace.
Nice. Okay.
So that's where I say it's like not really science fiction, but
Is it-
it's inspired by sci-fi.
that sounds a lot of fun though.
Yeah.
Was there any movies that inspired you too when you were younger for some of these ideas, or just sort of as something
Um,
that stuck with you?
for Chicken Man, I would say Sam Raimi's Spider-Man for sure was a really big influence.
Mhm.
hmm
No, so which of the Spider-Mans do you prefer?
That's a tricky question. I say I definitely prefer Tobey's Spider-Man, Sam Raimi films. I just like
Okay.
Sam Raimi in general, even his
Mhm.
horror movies. I just like his
Evil
directing
Dead
style.
and all those ones.
Yeah.
I
I know a
mean,
lot of people have mixed opinions about the Andrew Garfield one. I think it was, he's good for the character they're having him play, but
yeah.
the character they're having him play wasn't really what people were
Well,
expecting.
that's just it. Because as a Spider-Man, I thought he did a good job, but as a Peter Parker, you're like,
Yeah,
this is supposed to be a
that's the thing.
dorky kid that no one likes, and he's like skateboarding, all
Yeah, they
doing
made him
those.
like cool Peter, but people still don't like him. It's like,
Yeah,
huh?
and you're like, why?
He's very good looking and outgoing socially,
How
but
can't stand
nobody
him?
likes him. He's such a
Yeah,
dork
exactly.
because he
You know,
knows science. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. That's I think, and I don't blame
Yeah, I
Andrew
agree with that
Garfield.
statement. It's like Andrew Garfield definitely played the quippy Spider-Man better, but
Mhm.
Toby captured Peter better.
Yes, and then there's Tom Holland. I thought did a great job
hmm
as the
Oh yeah.
same thing, and
Yeah,
it's
he's
just
good
like
casting.
I wish they'd like to do one because in the comics, Spider-Man was only in college for a very short, in university
hmm
or high school for a very short part of his run.
hmm
Like, okay, get him into college in his real world. Like,
Yeah, I mean that's what they're trying to do now, but who
mhm.
knows what's going on with Sony. They seem to not know what to do with the IP and they're constantly bickering with like Disney
Yeah,
and Marvel. So,
and I think that's been an unfortunate issue for a lot of superhero, like same as Fantastic Four. I don't know if you've seen any of the three movies that came out for the well,
oh,
this,
I saw all three of them.
oh,
Yeah.
so
Not a big
yeah,
fan of Fantastic.
no, no, and again, it's like, how can you get this
hmm
family? It's a whole Fantastic Four is a family story, basically
hmm
what it is, but they can never get it right. Now, obviously for storyboards in movies, like do you when you go see a movie like Spider-Man or that, do you sort of when you're sitting down, do you sort of imagine how they played out the storyboard?
Sometimes there's a thing in storyboarding called reverse storyboarding, which is like you'll watch a film usually after you've seen it, and you'll
Mhm.
like this is usually when it's on like DVD or streaming, you're able to pause it,
Yeah.
and you'll just like if a sequence I find is interesting, I'll go back to that sequence and I'll like pause it at like key actions, and
Mhm.
I'll draw thumbnails of that sequence to help learn how they crafted it together.
Mhm. Have you ever sort of done the one of like, okay, what if I like for doing the editing, did you like, okay, would I change scenes yourself? You're like, okay, what if I did this instead for
Hmm.
some of those movies?
Yeah, if you'd fix that. There's definitely some movies I'd watch where like if a sequence is like really bad, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Why did they do it this way? Or there's like a glaring issue that's obvious. Like, oh my God, a few weeks ago, I saw Madam Web as a joke
Oh,
with some friends.
yeah. Yeah,
So,
I mean, come on, Brazilian Amazonian spider people? Come on.
I don't know as a I like oh man, the first 4 minutes of that movie were atrociously bad. Yeah, like the I think the first line in the movie, the bad guy, I don't like I heard someone say like he was apparently 80 yard after the fact, which makes a bit of sense because I felt a little disconnect when he was speaking. But the literal first line of the movie is he's like, I hear there's spiders in this forest that can give you superpowers. And then like the woman's like, oh, don't be ridiculous. It's just for medical purposes. It's like, yes, but don't you ever wonder about these spider people in the forest or something? And then like
Oh
two
my.
minutes later, like they just pop out of nowhere.
And they
Like,
save the baby, and then send her to
yeah,
New York,
yeah, and like,
like they do,
oh man,
they tend to do,
the
right?
costume design made me laugh because they're like trying to make it look like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, but instead they're covered in red clay and like the webbing is like dried up black vines or something.
But
Because
again, it's
like,
like, what are you doing, Sony? Like everyone
yeah,
knows Spider-Man. You're putting
mm-hmm,
something that happens before Spider-Man's born.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't. Again, sometimes you wonder, like, should there not be like a 5-year-old sitting there going, but this makes no sense.
Yeah, I imagine it has to be like a licensing thing.
Yeah.
And also, after I watched the movie, like I was thinking about it and I was talking to friends. I was like, okay, so she's trying to save these three girls, but in the movie, I can confirm her actions have killed at least four people unintentionally in the process of trying to save those girls. But she's supposed to be able to see the future.
Yeah.
Like there's literally a scene where yeah, I hope people don't mind Madam Web
Oh,
spoilers. But there's a
no.
scene in that movie where um Peter Parker's about to be born, so they're on their way to the hospital. And then she gets there too late because they're being attacked. And then there's a ambulance shows up to the house next door, and she steals the ambulance to catch up to them.
Um, but the ambulance is going to the house for a reason. Like that someone could die
Yeah,
from
it's
that.
like, and then the very next scene, like she drives through a poster to hit evil Spider-Man, and then evil Spider-Man drops a grenade that falls underneath of a taxi in the middle of the road and it explodes.
Yeah, those people are dead. Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's I heard there's a line in there where it's like, with great response, when you accept great responsibility, you get great power.
I don't even remember. That sounds like something that would have been in the movie.
Yeah. And everyone just went, wait, you're changing Spider-Man's whole thing?
It's not Spider-Man's thing, it's Madame Web's thing. It's
Oh, sorry, Madam
Spider-Man's thing,
Web's.
but said slightly differently.
Yeah, exactly. So it's own her own thing then, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I imagine though, do you ever watch bad movies and stuff like that with your friends just to
Oh
have
yeah,
a
I enjoy watching bad movies. Like yeah, I'll watch like Neil Breen stuff with friends.
yes. His stuff is just
Hmm.
it what is it called? The vanity projects, basically. Like
Hmm.
he is the best of everything and no one else could do it all. He's the best
Yeah.
hacker, best marksman, best this.
He
But
is
then
the
he
best
makes it,
hacker. He has uncovered secrets that will shock you.
yes, every time. Yes. And then, but it's done on a computer that's using, 1990s graphics almost.
Hmm.
But I gotta give him credit. He's still getting his movies made. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how he's getting backing or, how the money's coming in to make them. But at
Well,
least,
his new, if you've seen his latest film, it's all
oh,
just green screen on stock footage.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, there's not a single live action plate in that movie. It's all
No?
like Shutterstock
Yeah.
videos and photos, and he's just like comping people into frame.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
great.
And like I said, I gotta give him credit. He's making his movies, so as silly as, and at least I find that I get a laugh at them. I don't
Hmm.
know if he means people to laugh at them like that, but they're fun.
Hmm.
I find them better than Steven Seagal movies, which are bad, but they're more cringe bad than
Yeah, I haven't
laughable
seen
bad.
much Steven Seagal. All I know is this is new stuff. He's like, apparently there's a movie where he sits in a chair the
Yes.
entire time, even
Yeah.
in the action
Oh yeah,
sequences.
he's fighting from the chair and knocking people around. You're good, buddy. You're really good. And then, so what do you do with your friends then when you're not trying to get working on Chicken Man, working on Pirates? What's the thing that you do with fun besides the bad
Uh,
movies?
I just like to, hang out downtown,
Yeah,
video games, usual, that sort of thing.
yeah. So
Yeah.
what sort of video games do you like?
Whew, interesting.
Ah,
So like I'm not really like on top of it with video games. I'm so busy I don't really get a lot of time to play the new ones. Like I actually just bought a Switch when the new Zelda came out like earlier last year. So
oh yeah, you're on top.
yeah,
You're on top of
I'm
things.
catching up on games. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say you
Yeah,
must
I
be
really enjoy platformer games a lot.
okay.
I
Yeah,
just like simple stuff where I can just relax and just de-stress.
yeah. Because I imagine for you, it's just sort of nice to be able to just pop in for something for like half an hour, and
Hmm.
just because I
Yeah.
imagine it keeps you pretty busy doing all the freelance work and Chicken Man and Cyberspace Pirates, plus doing even like you're still doing a few cons this year, not as many, right?
Yeah, not as many. So far I'm confirmed for Force City Comic Con in London.
Okay.
I'm still waiting to hear back from Fan Expo. And then there's a few other cons I'm waiting for the applications to open,
Right.
but it's pretty late this year.
Yeah. Have you gone to San Diego Comic Con as a fan yourself, or
I've not made the trip.
yeah?
I'm sure it's quite an event.
Yes, I'm hopefully you'll be able to make it there for
Mhm.
Chicken Man or the Cyberspace Pirates. Now, when you're doing the for them, whenever you get the backing, I'm hoping you do get Cyberspace Pirates come out as an animated one. Would you be doing most of the work yourself for the animation because you did study that?
Yeah, I'd probably do a bit as far as like animation direction.
Mhm.
I'd probably do a lot more of the storyboards and the writing myself. Yeah.
So you'd be looking out for other people to help you out with the
Yeah, I'd
animation
be
side.
looking to hire on a team and take more of a director role.
Is that where you like to go towards? Like,
Hmm.
still sort of keep the creative thing, but be more towards the director and
Hmm.
that sort of idea?
Yeah, I love to direct. That's like I guess my like overall like long-term goal I want to reach is to become a director for either animated series or feature film.
Well, good luck with that. 'Cause it's pretty interesting talking to someone who's like so much going on, but just having a good time doing it. Do you see Chicken Man going in for the next how many years? 4 or 5 years, would still continue with Chicken Man, or
Well, definitely we'll still be working on the next 4 to 5 years. So the plan for Chicken Man right now is I'm going to be doing a 4 volume story arc.
okay?
So each book's going to be based off of a different food group. So there'll be a new villain for each food group. So the first one is Attack of the Vegetable People, and the second one is going to be like grains and wheat is
Oh, okay, yeah.
the theme for that one.
Is Captain
Uh,
Crunch going to be an enemy in that one?
yeah, he's copyrighted, guys, but no.
Well, that'd
Yeah.
be interesting. And then there's a finale. You see like a big finale for Chicken Man at some point in time.
Yeah, so the plan is I've broken up the story into arcs, so I'm going to do the first 4 regardless of how successful the series is, just because
Mhm.
it's my passion project and I
Yeah.
originally envisioned 4 volumes, but I currently have treatments to do up to 12 volumes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I got a lot of ideas for stories.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah.
So it's one of those ones like if it becomes really successful, you'll be like, yeah, I can keep going for quite a long
Yeah,
time.
just keep going. But I don't want it to end up being like manga where you're on like volume 78 and that sort of thing. I want it to be something that someone can reasonably pick up and complete.
Well, also I think you want to still be enjoying it, right? Not
Yeah.
not looking like, oh, I got to put out a new Chicken Man.
Hmm.
Okay, you want to still be enjoying it
Yeah,
while you're
so
doing it.
I definitely have like a conclusive ending in mind. Yeah.
And then for Cyberspace Pirates, again, is that another one that you see an end to? Like there's an arc to it, or
Yeah, that the whole story's arced out. The first 3 volumes are written in script format already. Um, that one I'm a more flexible on how long things can be. So there are arcs. Some of them might end up being longer than I'm anticipating. Right now, I think that one, if I do the entire story, would probably also be around 12 volumes. But this is another thing, is like as it develops, I'll see.
well, that's also when you have that many, then you can eventually just reprint it as an omnibus. Here's the Chicken Man omnibus.
Omnibus. That sounds like a weird superhero. It's like
Well, that's
half
what they
Omni-Man, half a
Yeah,
bus.
or what was it, Mega Man, and that the
Mhm.
whole the Marvel Man became Mega Man, and now back into the Marvel process. I don't know if you pay attention to.
Oh, the Captain Marvel stuff?
Yeah, well, because
Yeah.
Captain
Wait,
Marvel,
they were Mega
Shazam.
Man at one point?
Well, yeah, he was Mega Man in UK,
Okay.
and then but then
They're like,
again,
well, there's this video game.
yeah, well, that's just it. It was like, but then the
Yeah.
different rights and everything, they changed the name,
Yeah.
and
And then, are we talking about the DC one for what
Well,
ended
that
up
was
becoming Shazam?
that's no, a different one.
Oh, or are we talking about actual Captain Marvel, the Marvel one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing, because there was Shazam, who was Captain Marvel back in DC, but then DC, well, it wasn't DC. They lost the rights to it. Then it became, and that's where people go, why can't, like, I know Sam Raimi with Evil Dead. There's a reason there's an Evil Dead 2 is because they didn't have the rights to the first Evil Dead, so they had to basically redo it and call it Evil Dead 2. But it's the same story.
Yeah, it's just a more comedic retelling of the same thing.
Yeah, a little
And
bit
then the
bigger.
third one, they just went completely off the rails.
Oh, they did. But I'm sorry, still Ash versus the Army of Dead is still a hilarious one.
Groovy.
Like, yes, what if some guy, a little bit of an asshole, goes back in the time? But I've always actually, Bruce Campbell's one of my favorite actors, just because he's not the typical Hollywood leading man sort of idea. But he's done so many different types of movies.
Sam Raimi sure wants him to be.
Oh, yes. And again, like I said, I appreciate actors that, are willing to do different jobs just to try and get things done. One of my favorite movies from Bruce Campbell is one called, they call it My Name is Bruce, where it's sort of the meta version of himself, in a movie where fans come to see him as Bruce Campbell to go and take care of some evil dead.
What?
Yeah,
my head around what you're talking about. But
well,
it's giving me being John Malkovich vibes.
Sort of idea, but basically it's instead of actually going to the head of John Malkovich, it's a fan goes to see Bruce Campbell to help them defeat a ghost that they have let loose. And Bruce Campbell is playing sort of a caricature of himself in that movie. But I like that one sort of there.
What was it called again?
My Name is Bruce.
My Name is Bruce. Okay, I'll make sure to look that one up later. Sounds fun.
And Bruce Campbell's playing himself way to number 11. Like, he's just having fun with that sort of one. Almost sort of like Nick Cage making himself with the massive weight,
the massive talent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, you saw that one?
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's good.
Yeah, have you also seen Adaptation?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Nicolas Cage. It's a Charlie Kaufman film.
Oh, really?
And it's an adaptation of a book called The Orchid Thief.
Okay.
And The Orchid Thief, it's like not really a narrative book. It's about like a scientist doing her studies on these orchids. And the whole point about the movie is like, what do you do if you're trying to adapt that material? So it's like a very meta narrative.
Oh, okay, that sounds.
And
really interesting.
he casts Nicolas Cage as himself, as the author. I mean the writer of the movie.
Yeah.
But he also cast Nicolas Cage as his twin brother, who in real life does not exist. And another thing is Nicolas Cage got fat for the role, even though the writer himself is not fat. He just wanted. He wrote. There's literally a line at the end of it where the character is like driving off. He's like, "I wonder who they'll have me play in the movie. Hopefully not someone who's fat." And that's literally the only reason Nicolas Cage got fat for the role, was that end line.
Okay, that's hilarious. No, that's again. So would you ever want to direct a movie then? Like, not just animation, but like with a real. Not that animation's not a real movie, you know what I mean? Like, with real people.
What are you saying? Animation's not a real movie? Huh?
Hey, Akira is one of my favorite movies out there for animation.
Want to tell that to Del Toro?
Oh, well, then do you like the What's your favorite animated movie then?
That's a tricky one. I have a few. I
Okay,
say
top five
um
if you can.
Iron Giant,
Hmm.
Tarzan,
Which which one? Oh,
not the
they only had the one.
sequels.
I thought they had this.
I don't count VOD stuff.
Okay, okay, never mind.
Yeah. So I say Tarzan. I say probably I'm debating putting the first Spider-Verse on that one. It's still pretty new, so I don't know how it
Mm.
will last in terms of my broad scope of films. Um, Hercules is a big one. I really love Hercules. Um, and The Incredibles for CG
Oh
movies.
yes,
Yeah.
the real Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, if you look at it, it's like a family with
Hmm.
all different powers. Like, yeah.
Hmm.
So do you like the Japanese ones like Words of the Wind, Princess Mononoke?
Oh yeah, actually, yeah, Prince Mononoke was the first Ghibli movie I ever saw. Yeah, I really love that one. Yeah.
So that I guess that's what you would be well because
Hmm.
your work is animation. That's
Yeah.
what you've
Oh,
studied
also
it.
Laputa, Castle in the Sky. That's a great
Oh
one as well.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
So what's the style that for animation that you'd want to work with then? Because like there's different styles, right? There's different like would you
Hmm.
want to change it up every time and do something different? And
Yeah, usually for my personal projects, I have to change the style a bit between projects because I want everything to be unique. I feel
Mhm.
it's good to be flexible, so I don't really have a preference on particular style I work on. It's whatever suits the story best.
And same I guess for like animated movies. Would you do a
Hmm.
sort of a more CG because there's different. There's the the old
Hmm.
school sort of drawing. There's more CGI animation
Yeah.
style.
Ideally, I'd love to do a hand-drawn film, though I also am really liking the stuff that's going on now with like hybrid 2D, 3D.
Hmm.
I really love that sort of style, like the stuff with like Spider-Verse and the new
Yeah.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh
Yeah,
yes, I forgot about those ones.
yeah.
Oh,
I
that's right.
think
There
those.
was they had one Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles meets Batman.
Wait, what? I haven't heard
Yeah,
that one.
the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Batman. They go to Gotham City, chase and Splinter's there and everything.
Huh. Yeah, I was referring to Mutant Mayhem, the
Yeah, yeah.
new one, yeah, which
But you
they're
should. But there
making a
is one.
sequel to actually. So
Ooh,
look forward to
okay.
that.
Have you thought of trying just putting together some like besides you said on your own site you have the one for pirates, a
Hmm.
little one. But have you thought of doing some like I know you don't have as much your time's an issue, but have you thought like okay, I'll take 2 months to work on a small little animation project by yourself and put that out?
Mm, I would love to, but it's always like there's a thing where it's like, artistic vision, what you want to do, what you want to express, but also economic realities. So it's like I want to do something that has a more chance of being able to have some form of financial return so I can keep making content.
Hmm.
So that's another reason why I'm like more interested in doing like longer format series stuff, because if one takes off, I can keep going on with that series,
Hmm.
which can ultimately fund other projects.
Yes, and like you said, then then eventually get more merch being sold, which then you can
Hmm.
just the merch once it keeps selling it, you don't have to do anything. It's always out there.
Yeah, you want to make sure you have some form of what is it? Passive income, where it's like
Hmm.
some product you've created that just exists that you can keep selling
That
without
you know,
needing
like
to
okay,
put a lot of labor into. So
yeah,
it's not like when I'm doing Chicken Man, I'm not drawing every single book by hand and you're all getting
yes,
100% original. That'd be nuts.
that's great. Yes. Oh, come on, you want to go back to those old sort of days, right?
Yeah,
Each
I'll start making these again.
so I guess you got a lot of support from the friends and families for
Hmm.
Chicken Man then, right?
Yeah, like very, very supportive. Like, yeah, and it's like when I have my ideas, it's always good to talk to them and, hear what they think. When they get excited about it, it really encourages me to keep working on it as well.
More if there's more stuff I can dig out of you,
Guess the only
I
other thing I've been doing that's probably well unusual, but also relates to animation is I also have a background in like computer programming.
mhm.
So recently I made a add-on for Blender called Action Boards, which is
Oh,
for
okay.
doing 2D, 3D hybrid storyboarding inside of Blender.
Ooh, that sounds really
Yeah.
interesting. Have you
So
thought doing
that's
an app for that then?
an app.
Yeah.
I'm not that great of a coder to make an app from scratch.
Well,
I know a
there's
lot of Python, which is what Blender uses for their add-ons.
yeah.
So, I on and off for the last 4 years, I had just kind of been working on this on the side. And then one day I posted like a thing of it on LinkedIn when I was looking for work, and then everyone's like, Where can I get this?" And then
See?
my phone was just ringing for like
Yeah.
a week straight. So I was like, okay, there's actually serious interest in this. So for like the next 8 months, I put together a beta test team and like really polished it, and then
Nice.
earlier last month I finally got it out.
Oh, nice. And it's doing well for sales, I hope.
First week was pretty good. It's hard to keep traction, but I
Yeah.
think it's one of those things where it's like people really got to start using it first, and I feel it will spread from word of mouth. Those who are using it really enjoy it.
Oh, good.
So I'm happy about that. So I'll just
That-
wait a bit and see where things go.
Well, have you thought maybe perhaps doing that then for income then instead of the freelance or?
Right now it seems to be the most promising one because freelance is a little inconsistent right now. So yeah.
Well, at least the thing nowadays with technology, at least you can be in GTO but work for some company anywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's better than back in my day where if you weren't in the same city, they're like, oh, well, it takes too much effort to send you the files and get them back. So
Mm-hmm.
at least nowadays you can work anywhere. So
Yeah. Another thing I think is good for this too is like since it's taken off a bit in such a short time, like I'm starting to build like a community around it. So
okay.
I'm getting to like, meet other creators in my field. So it's been a great, I guess both networking opportunity, and it's also been good for them because I said I wasn't going to talk about like industry stuff, but like the current industry standard software for storyboarding costs about 100 Canadian a month to use.
A month.
Yeah. So I was like,
Oh,
and then I was like, okay, I'm gonna work on this thing,
yeah.
and I released it for literally like half their
Yeah.
monthly cost, and it's
Nice.
just buy it and you have it. If I come out with updates, you get the update, just one-time
That's great.
purchase.
Because on our Twitch on our podcast recently when we were doing the recording, that's one thing we brought up was you don't own software anymore.
Yeah,
You
it's tough.
everything's lease, or month or subscription fees and
Mhm.
everything. And
Yeah, like every artist and studio head I know, it's like, yeah, they miss the days where you could just own it. It's like a lot of these companies will offer like a purchasable version, but it'll be
yes,
like $6,000 and you
it's way over the
can't
top. Yeah,
get any updates.
no.
And it's like, what?
See, as a small podcaster where I do video editing, I
Mhm.
like to build like I bought Corel because it doesn't have the same things as Adobe,
Mhm.
but Adobe charges you a lot per month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, we're
It's
not
crazy, especially if you're someone who's like in between contracts and doesn't have work currently. It's like
yeah,
my thought process was like, why would you pay $100 a month for the software when you could
yeah,
just
exactly. You got
own it and not worry about losing your savings during that time period?
yeah,
So,
that's why I went with Corel because I could actually own it.
mhm,
I mean, yes, it's an initial outlay, but at least I don't have to worry about okay, every
mhm.
month I got to pay for a subscription,
Yeah.
every year the yearly one. And again, we're small, so we're not like raking in a lot of money
Mhm,
from Patreon and other stuff. So the same thing is like, yeah, I'd love to use Adobe. I can't
mhm.
afford the subscription. I can't justify the cost for that.
Yeah. I use what's the one? Clip Studio.
Clip Studio, okay.
So unfortunately, they just switched to subscription model like earlier this year,
Yeah.
but their subscription is significantly cheaper. I can't remember. I think it's less than $10 a month.
Oh well, that's not too bad.
Yeah, they're not bad.
Yeah.
It used to be like anywhere between like 80 to 150 to just own it outright. They're one of those companies where it's like they have predetermined times of year where they'll do like a 40 to 50% off sale. So it's like you never buy it when it's full price, just wait for like the holiday season or an anniversary. But they're very affordable even though they have switched to the subscription model.
I mean, I can understand from a
Yeah.
point of view of the business where they're like, oh, it's passive income.
Yeah. There's also a open source software that's similar called Krita, which is very good as well.
Okay.
So if someone doesn't want to, deal with that subscription stuff, Krita is a great alternative as well.
But it's same as now for the streaming services for videos.
Mhm.
It's like you don't own those videos. You can watch them, but if one of the streaming services decides that movie's not going to be on our service anymore,
Oh yeah, it doesn't exist.
it's gone. It's like, oh, okay.
Have you ever heard of a show called Final Space?
No.
Oh, unfortunate. Okay, I think it's already been taken off of Netflix.
Oh no.
Yeah, it
Oh
was.
no, wait. I did see. Yeah, there was a couple seasons of that.
Yeah, sci-fi animated comedy. Yeah,
Yes.
I really loved that show, but unfortunately it got pulled. But the creator, Olin Rogers, like he was fighting to get the rights back, and Warner Brothers gave him like a deal, but it's still a really bad deal, which was they gave him the right to create a graphic novel follow-up to the series, It has to be a follow-up. It can't be like a restart. He's allowed to publish it. It can use the name Final Space and all of that. But here are the caveats. So he is not allowed to sell it on a traditional online store like Amazon or anything like that. He's not allowed to sell it in a like Barnes and Noble's brick and mortar retail store.
How's he supposed to sell it then?
Yeah, and he's not allowed to use any crowdfunding platforms to create the money. He's only allowed to sell it or raise funds for a website he owns himself.
Oh my goodness, that's
so
crazy.
He basically created a website and did like a whole pre-order campaign for it.
Well, so I hope he does well, but it's still like that's
the book is supposed to be somewhere between 400 to 600 pages.
Yeah. Well, I'd be interested to check out. But yeah, I feel bad for him because like, okay, you can't sell it here, you can't do this. Like,
so he can only sell it on his website and I guess conventions. That's it.
That's terrible. And yeah, like you said, you can't get Final Space anymore. It's gone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and season 3 never had a physical release. Yeah. So if you're even able to hunt down the physical editions, you can only watch season 1 and 2.
And that's another thing I was hearing, like some some companies are thinking no more having a physical media for movies.
Oh yeah. Walmart's actually starting to get rid of their physical media section.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, but I want to own it. I want to be able to sit down and watch it when I want to, not try and find it on a streaming service.
Yeah, I heard Disney apparently had like a subscription service for owning physical copies of older movies, and they just discontinued it at the end of last year.
Yeah.
Which for some of their rarer IPs, it was like one of the only ways to get physical copies. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Disney's always sort of had the thing because they had even when they had physical media, they locked a lot of them up for 7 years or whatever. Then like, okay, we have a short run.
The Disney Vault has opened.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, get it now.
I remember that was on VHS. Now I'm sounding old. They'd have like the vault, like Tinkerbell would go by.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, now it's open. Go get it.
Now available for the first time on VHS.
Yeah. And then it's like, if you don't get it now, who knows when you'll get it again? And that's the thing nowadays is like, who knows when you'll be able to get a chance to actually physically own a movie again.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good to know about some of that software for editing and that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you do video editing as well, or just animation? Because
I do some video editing. I mostly just use DaVinci Resolve for my video editing. Like very bare bones. I don't get crazy into it.
The more you spend on software, the better you can get. But Adobe's one you used to be able to actually buy and own it.
Yeah. Like DaVinci, they have like a free version, but then there's like some stuff that's capped behind a paywall. I don't know how much the actual software to unlock is, but I don't think it's a subscription. I think it's a buy it and you have it.
No,
don't quote me on that in case I'm wrong, but I've still been using the free version.
Not good. Now, what do you think of AI?
Oh God,
is that one that's a touchy subject we're not going to get into there?
I guess it's a little touchy. It's scary for sure. For sure, I think a lot needs to be done, especially from like the government regulation level.
Yes,
because there's clear heavy amount of art theft going on that's feeding into how these things are able to evolve and get so good so quick.
It's just one of those ones where the technology has definitely outpaced the legislation.
Yeah, like when it was first coming up, what is it? So basically, it's like with most technology that we're used to, you expect a quality of like double each year. Like if you got 4-bit, the next year you get 8-bit, 16-bit, so on and so forth. So apparently the trajectory that AI is developing is not double, it's tenfold.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's incomprehensible by the human mind.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I was talking to one of the artists. He's like, it's a good tool for research for some things, but it still doesn't understand concepts, right? Like an artist will understand if you say, okay, give me a car with this. The AI doesn't understand different concepts, right? Like because it's learning so much. Who knows in a little while?
Next week.
Yep.
Could tomorrow. That's how AI news seems to be. It's like, I just kind of tune it out. I know what's going on, but as I said, like it evolves so fast, it's incomprehensible by the human mind. So it's like, it's just going to stress me out the more I see it. I'll check in every now and then. Yeah. But if my news feed's just coming up, there's usually like a breakthrough in AI happening every week.
I mean, there's still issues with it, which is good, I think, because at least then hopefully people don't use it for everything. I mean, it can be good for some stuff. Yeah, it's just I know with artists, it's one of those, and as writers too, is okay, AI can write a script. I mean, it's
Yeah.
obvious it's an AI written script, but if they
Yeah.
keep learning,
Yeah.
you know,
It's pretty scary. Right now, the thing I think AI is good for is a better search engine.
mhm.
Since it can like kind of understand and guess what you're asking it about, and some of them
That's
will
also,
remember context of your previous conversations, so
but
it'll
that's
give you more
scary too.
tailored results.
Yeah, that's also
Yeah,
scary.
it is
I
for
I
sure.
know what you have looked in your search engine. No. Well, that's also what happens nowadays. Actually, with advertisements, you do a search on the internet, and somehow Facebook's like, "Hey, here's an ad related to what you searched on." Like,
Hmm.
um,
No, what's really creepy is you don't even search it. You're just talking to a friend about it, and then
yes.
pop,
Uh,
because they are listening to you on the phones.
oh, they are. Yeah. Well, that's like any
Uh-huh.
Amazon or
Hmm.
Alexa, Siri, or all
Hmm.
those. They're
Yeah. I heard someone was saying it's like if you I think it was like Google, you could find like audio record history of your commands. And if you
hmm
listen to the audio record history of your command, it starts with the line of you saying, "Okay, Google."
Yeah, that's guy has a
Meaning
smartphone and it was
it's saving the data prior to the audio activating
yeah,
it.
it's like, but it's not supposed to do that,
Yeah.
right? That's where I don't have an Alexa or that because I'm like, well, I'll just play my
Hmm.
thing. But it's like I've heard so many well, not horror
Hmm.
stories, but it's like, yeah, it recorded everything, and then sent an
Hmm.
email with that video with the clip
Yeah.
because it thought that heard the command. It's like, what? No.
Hmm. Yeah, it's crazy. Like some issues regarding AI will be exploring with cyberspace pirates.
Yeah.
So like one of my approach with that series, it's more of like an upbeat take on kind of like dystopian future where the characters you're following are more of like a family kind of unit. So it's like
hmm
they're more of outside of the dystopian atmosphere, but they're
Gotcha.
still in that world. So you're seeing kind of like the dark future from like a more colorful
A
lens.
more tongue-in-cheek sort of
Yeah.
fun sort of look at it.
Yeah. I want it to be that thing where it's like that bit of happiness that's in the middle of the gloom. Because I don't like focusing on the series like like depressing concepts or anything like
Yeah.
that.
Well,
I
I
knew
think
as a sci-fi, especially something in like the cyberpunk, that's dystopian by
yes.
nature, and cyberspace pirates is but more like cassette futurism, which is more of like more of like that kind of like more 80s
hmm
and early 90s form of cyberpunk, and it tends to be associated a bit more for a light-hearted version of the
Yeah.
genre.
Like you said, keep
So
it a little bit light. It's in the
yeah.
background that there's some dark stuff there, but
Hmm.
the focus is more of the fun stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Oh,
kind of like that a bit. Having just a little pinch of dark stuff in the background of my work, but keeping it
yeah.
more, yay!
Is there any dark stuff in Chicken Man?
Uh, I guess it's very, very subtle. Um, but yeah, there's nothing like outward, but there's like occasional like little jokes that you could like read into. Like there's a part in the opening where there's a thing where a Chicken Man, he can hear the narrator.
hmm
And at the beginning, he's sent to this genetic lab by accident, and he eats basically the bucket of chicken he's supposed to deliver, which is why he doesn't get turned into an actual chicken because he ate it. But there's a part where he's eating it, and then the narrator is like, and so he gives into his cravings and eats the chicken, and then Chicken Man's like, "Don't judge me, you're not my dad." So it's like there's subtle stuff like that. Like if you know, you know,
Yeah,
but it's
yeah.
not like, you know.
Well, that's pretty good. Though
Yeah.
that's great. Well, thank you very much, Andrew, for
Hmm.
this. Thank you, everyone, for paying attention to this video. All the links that we've talked about, well, as many links I can find will be in the description. Definitely give it a like and follow Fun Picks,
Fun Picks.
Fun Picks,
FUNPIX.
GIX, for all his stuff that's coming up. As also, if you're in the GTA, you might be able to see him at one of the Comic Cons.
Hmm.
And, thank you very much, Andrew.
Cool. Thank you for having me, Patrick.
Well then, dude. Take the pressure, bottom and breath by breath. We'll let the bottom and breath by breath. We'll let the fire grow. They don't know that it's just the start of it. Steady my hand, make the whole world wonder. We know that.